Imagine holding a single drop of crude oil on the tip of your finger. It is thick, dark, and smells faintly of ancient decay. To the naked eye, it is just a stubborn stain, a messy liquid that takes soap and hot water to scrub away. But if you look closely enough, if you really understand what is resting on your skin, you realize you are holding compressed time. You are holding millions of years of ancient sunlight and microscopic life, crushed under the unimaginable weight of shifting oceans and tectonic rock, waiting in the dark to be unleashed. This single unassuming drop is the literal DNA of the modern world. It is the black blood that built our towering cities, fed our billions, and completely redrew the map of human civilization. To understand the sheer magnitude of this substance, we have to take a tour. Not a tour of a ruined city or an ancient palace, but a journey through the invisible architecture of the oil age. We are going to walk through the colossal global structure that this black blood erected, moving from the microscopic chemistry of this fluid to the massive geopolitical empires it created, right up to the modern climax we are living in today. But our journey does not begin in a sleek corporate boardroom or a modern gas station. It begins in the mud and in the dark. Step back into the visceral reality of the mid-19th century. The world was, quite literally, growing dim. For decades, humanity had relied on the flickering light of whale oil to illuminate its homes and streets. We had hunted the great leviathans of the deep to the absolute brink of extinction just to keep our reading lamps lit. The price of whale oil was skyrocketing. Society was facing an energy crisis that threatened to plunge the industrializing world back into the shadows. We were desperate for a replacement, scouring the earth for anything that would burn clean and bright. Then, in 1859, the earth cracked open. In the quiet, unassuming woods of Titusville, Pennsylvania, a man named Edwin Drake drove a drill bit deep into the dirt. It wasn't just a discovery, it was the violent opening of a subterranean vault. A geyser of thick black sludge erupted from the ground, coating the men, the wooden derrick, and the surrounding soil in a dark, foul-smelling film. They didn't know it yet, but that eruption was the starting gun for the modern era. They hadn't just found a new fuel for lamps. They had tapped into the buried energy reserves of the planet itself. From that muddy puddle in Pennsylvania, the architecture of a new world began to rise at a terrifying speed. If we look at the exterior of this global structure, we are immediately confronted with the logistical nightmare of early oil extraction. It is a story of human engineering that borders on the impossible. Think of the sheer audacity required to chase this liquid. We didn't just drill in quiet forests. We marched into the most hostile environments on Earth. We built towering metal monoliths in the middle of raging, freezing oceans, anchoring steel legs to the sea floor while waves battered the decks. We laid thousands of miles of heavy steel pipelines across the frozen, unforgiving tundras of Siberia and Alaska, and through the scorching, shifting sands of the Arabian desert. This was the creation of a global circulatory system, and it was built through sheer brute force. The roughnecks and wildcatters who constructed this network faced vertiginous danger every single day. They worked with heavy iron swinging in the air, deafening noise, and a highly volatile explosive liquid bursting from the earth under immense pressure. They turned a localized, messy puddle into the most crucial worldwide commodity in human history. But the story of oil is not just about massive steel rigs and rough men in hard hats. To truly understand its power, we have to move inside. We have to walk into the intimate spaces of human life. Just as an ancient Roman house had its public courtyards and its private bedrooms, oil infiltrated the most personal, hidden aspects of our daily existence. This is where we encounter the alchemy of the refinery. The crude oil pulled from the ground is virtually useless on its own. It has to be boiled, cracked, and separated in massive distillation towers. And once chemists figured out how to reverse engineer this ancient sludge, they unleashed the petrochemical revolution. Let's look around the rooms of your own life. The smooth, black asphalt you drive on every morning, that is the heavy, sticky bottom of the barrel, binding rocks together to pave the planet. But it goes far beyond transportation. Walk into a modern hospital. Look at the sterile environment that saves countless lives. The disposable syringes, the IV bags, the lightweight heart valves, the sanitary packaging. All of it is born from sterile plastics, which are direct derivatives of petroleum. Look at the very clothes on your body right now. If you are wearing anything with polyester, nylon, acrylic or spandex, you are quite literally wrapped in petroleum. We took the crushed remains of Jurassic marine life, spun it into synthetic threads, and dyed it to create the fast fashion empires of the modern world. You are wearing ancient history. And then, perhaps most astonishingly, we walk into the garden. For thousands of years, humanity was bound by the strict limits of nature. We could only grow as much food as the natural nitrogen in the soil would allow. Famine was a constant looming specter. But oil and its sister, natural gas, changed the fundamental math of human survival. Through complex chemical processes, we learned how to use fossil fuels to pull nitrogen out of the air and synthesize chemical fertilizers. Suddenly, the earth could yield crops at a scale never before seen. We replaced the slow, grueling labor of humans and draft animals with massive diesel-guzzling tractors and combine harvesters. We blanketed our fields in petroleum-based pesticides and herbicides. Today, we are able to feed a staggering 8 billion people, a population size that would be mathematically impossible without fossil fuels. When you eat an apple or a piece of bread today, you are essentially eating the ghost of oil. It takes roughly 10 calories of fossil fuel energy to produce a single calorie of modern food. We have eaten the ancient sunlight to fuel our present. But as we move deeper into the architecture of this oil age, the tone shifts. We leave the domestic spaces and enter the grand halls of power. We enter the boardroom of the 20th century. Here, the map of the world is physically redrawn. Oil is not evenly distributed beneath the Earth's crust. It's pooled over millions of years in arbitrary geological pockets, completely ignoring the borders drawn by human beings. And once the world realized that whoever controlled the oil controlled the future, everything changed. Entire nations were born overnight. Borders in the Middle East were carved into the sand by colonial powers desperate to secure the subterranean pools beneath the desert. The global hierarchy shifted dramatically. Superpowers were no longer just defined by the size of their armies or the gold in their vaults, but by their access to the black blood. There is a dark, fascinating irony in this. A resource that brought unprecedented prosperity, that lifted billions out of poverty and built the modern middle class, also became the ultimate curse. The resource curse is a well-documented phenomenon. Nations sitting on oceans of oil often found themselves plagued by corruption, authoritarianism, and endless, brutal conflicts. Oil became the invisible hand moving military fleets across the globe. Foreign policy for the last century has been largely dictated by the paths of pipelines, the security of deep water ports, and the control of narrow shipping choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. In the ancient world, empires relied on the grueling physical labor of millions of enslaved people to build their monuments and harvest their fields. In the modern world, we replaced that human labor with barrels of oil. A single barrel of crude oil contains the energy equivalent of roughly 10 years of human physical labor. We built a society of unimaginable luxury and leisure precisely because we have billions of these invisible workers pumping through our engines and power plants every single day. But no golden age lasts forever without a reckoning. And this brings us to the climax of our tour. In ancient cities buried by time, the end usually came in the form of a sudden, violent catastrophe. An invading army, a devastating earthquake, or the catastrophic eruption of a volcano. For the oil age, the eruption has been a slow-motion phenomenon, an unfolding realization of our own vulnerability. The first tremors were felt in the 1970s during the Great Oil Shocks. Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East led to a massive embargo. Suddenly, the spigot was turned off. The Western world, which had grown fat and comfortable on cheap, abundant energy, experienced a collective panic. There were miles-long lines at gas stations. Economies ground to a halt. It was a terrifying moment of clarity. We realized that our entire civilization was completely addicted to a finite resource controlled by a handful of players. We had built a spectacular global machine, but we were absolutely terrified of running out of the fuel that kept it spinning. Yet, running out of oil turned out to be the lesser of our worries. The true catastrophe, the real eruption burying our world, is the byproduct of the combustion itself. For over a century, we have been digging up millions of years of stored carbon and setting it on fire in the blink of an eye. We have treated the atmosphere as an infinite, invisible sewer for the exhaust of our progress. And the atmosphere is changing. The slow-motion eruption of the climate crisis is the ultimate civilizational trap. We built our entire world, our agriculture, our medicine, our cities, our economies, out of a substance that is now slowly suffocating the delicate balance of the planet. It is the most complex, frustrating dilemma in human history. We cannot simply turn off the tap. If we stop using oil tomorrow, billions would starve, economies would collapse, and modern medicine would freeze. But if we continue to burn it at our current pace, we risk rendering the planet uninhabitable for future generations. We are caught in a magnificent, terrifying trap of our own brilliant engineering. And so we reach the end of our journey. As we stand here looking back at the colossal structure of the oil age, we have to wonder how we will be remembered. Imagine, thousands of years from now, a future generation of archaeologists exploring the remnants of our time. Just as we look at the ash-covered ruins of ancient Roman villas, stepping over the preserved mosaics and empty courtyards to understand how they lived and died, what will they see of us? They won't find our digital data or our paper money. They will find the massive, rusting hulks of offshore oil rigs, standing like silent iron giants in the middle of the oceans. They will find thousands of miles of hollow steel pipelines buried beneath the deserts and the ice, like the fossilized veins of a dead leviathan. They will find the indestructible layers of microplastics settled in the sedimentary rock of the earth. These will be the future archaeological ruins of our era. They will be the monuments of the age of black blood, a fleeting, spectacular moment in the grand timeline of the earth, when a clever, desperate species found a buried treasure of ancient sunlight, used it to completely conquer the globe, and then had to face the agonizing reality of its true cost.